This is a moment in Jewish history. I am your host, Ben Bresky, and this week we are going to talk to author Cynthia Chana. Cynthia is the author of a book called Miracles from Israel, and now she's working on a new project and course. Cynthia, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ben.
Tell us a little about your book that came out a couple of years ago, Miracles from Israel. There's a lot of photos about some of the medical breakthroughs and all the startup high-tech companies that Israel has developed in recent years. Where did that all come from?
So my book, Miracles from Israel, Biblical Promises Fulfilled, it explores God's promises about the land of Israel in the biblical text and how they're being manifested today. The idea for the book, it came from living here in Israel, seeing the news every day, seeing the incredible, miraculous security of Israel that we prevent terror attacks almost on the daily basis from coming to fruition, to the incredible medical advancements that we're developing in the universities and biotech companies here in Israel. And I was like, this is amazing. There are modern miracles happening in the land of Israel, and we're not giving enough credit for it. So this book, well, firstly, it begins by giving readers a biblical, theological, and historical underpinning about the land of Israel. And then I connect it to the modern miraculous achievements of the state of Israel. I talk about the medical advancements, the technological innovation, the humanitarian efforts, and I want people to realize that miracles, they don't happen in these large, miraculous scenes that you'll see on your television. Sometimes the miracles are in the day-to-day things that are happening. And so I wanted to share with the world. In addition to that, we also see for the last more than 77 years, but we've seen Israel make the desert bloom. We've seen the incredible defense that Israel has created, constantly being threatened by existential threats of people who want to destroy us. And we just happen to be, thank God, right, because it's all God, one step ahead of our enemies. And the fact that we have also seen the ingathering of the Jews, which was prophesized coming back from the four corners of the earth. So all these things I wanted to bring out so that people can read it and connect to it and see that we're really living in incredible, miraculous times.
And now you have a new project coming out.
So when I started writing the book, it was like, okay, I know there's all these incredible miracles, advancements that are happening right now that are a little bit unexplainable. So there must be a Torah biblical reason why. And so I began my book by really researching why is it that the land of Israel cultivates and brings down these miraculous advancements. And so I started getting into the theological text because I already knew that the land of Israel has a type of spiritual energy, that God's presence, the Shekhinah, is on this land. But I needed to explain why that is. And so I delve into it a little bit in my first book. But as I got into it, I realized that there's a lot of information that people don't know because it's written in the biblical text. I didn't grow up Orthodox, but I've spent the last 15 years studying the text and really felt that this was the missing link for people to understand why is it that the land of Israel is so important in the news, in allowing for the creation of medical, technological, humanitarian advancements. And so I wanted to bring them together, and I created a book that talks about what the Bible actually says about the land of Israel and why it's important and how it connects to everything that's happening in the world today.
And that's called Holy Land and the Holy Text?
So I have a podcast, which is called Holy Land and the Holy Text, where I deep dive into certain subjects and issues, and I bring sources and examples of how things are happening today and how we see Israel in the biblical text manifesting today. But the course that I created is called, and you can find it on the website, The Land God Chose. So it's called The Land God Chose, What the Bible Actually Says About Israel.
You know, I talk about history a lot, and there was a time for American Jews in the late 1800s where some of them saw their Judaism as disconnected from the land of Israel, not just America, but in other countries. They said, we're here now, we're living modern lives, and we don't really need to connect ourselves to Israel in our prayers or in our daily lives.
Well, Judaism is based on the Torah, our theological text that has been with us, that tells our history, that tells our tradition, that says our beliefs and philosophies. And the Torah, the entire Torah, from the first book, Genesis, throughout the prophets, throughout history, connects to the land of Israel. It's essential. Without the land, there would be no covenant, no Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, no Jewish people as we know. The entire Tanakh is about the land of Israel. And it is a point that has been minimized because when we were in exile, we didn't have the land. And so we became more focused a little bit on ritualistic traditions that kept us and maintain us. But the whole Torah is really about the land. Abraham, the first Jew, was told by God to leave his home, leave everything he knows of, and go to the land that God would show him, because it's only on that land, this land, the land of Israel, is that where Abraham and his descendants would be able to fulfill the covenant that was promised to Abraham about living on the land of Israel, and that this land will belong to his descendants, because we have a role to play in this world, and we can only play that role on the land that we were instructed to live on. And so the entire Torah, from Genesis, okay, to the enslavement in Egypt, where God says, I am freeing you from the land to bring you to the land of Canaan, where I will be your God. This is the very first commandment that is given in the Ten Commandments. So the land of Israel is this entire focus. We have to merit the land. We have certain behaviors that we're expected to follow on the land. And so you can't separate Judaism from the land.
You know, when I was a kid growing up, I remember doing the prayer for rain. And I was thinking, does every person in every country, in every synagogue in the world, or Sukkot is the harvest festival? So is that some of the things you're talking about?
Well, there's certain rules for the land of Israel. And if you actually look deep into the text, there's certain behaviors and rules that are required to live in the land of Israel, because it's a sensitive, holy piece of land, spiritually speaking. Otherwise, you get thrown out. The text actually says it vomits you out. Within these behaviors and laws that are required to live in the land of Israel, some of which are going to the temple 3 times a year. There's certain laws about the land that you have to allow the land to lie fallow on the seventh year. There's certain prohibitions about behaviors. So it's all connected to the importance of living on the land. Also, Rav Kook, the great scholar, he said that you don't have access to a higher consciousness outside of Israel because there's a special spiritual energy on the land. And so when you're living outside of the land, you can only reach a level called Bina. It's a type of understanding. But when you're on the land, you can reach a level of Chokhmah, which is this integrated wisdom and understanding that's only applicable on the land. And that's what happens when the Jews come back to the land and are following the laws and God's instructions back in the land. And so as a result, they're able to tap in into this Chokhmah, this higher consciousness and awareness. And that's why they're able to bring down the medical treatments and cures, the new technological advancements that are helping the world, the humanitarian technology like drip irrigation that has been able to provide food security to the nations of the world that need it the most. So there's something very special about being on this land that allows us to tap into this higher consciousness, this higher level of holiness.
Now, you mentioned that you didn't grow up Orthodox, but maybe you could mention a little about what is your background and how you ended up in Israel.
Both my parents are Jewish. Everyone is Jewish in my family. But what happened is that once they left kind of the communal upbringing of Eastern Europe, they ended up in Brazil. And what happens is that when you move to a new country, especially when you're fleeing pogroms and anti-Semitism, you look mostly to assimilate, to not cause any waves or any trouble. And so what happens is that my family ended up moving to Brazil, which afforded them opportunities to live peacefully. And they, like many immigrants, assimilated into society and they became very Brazilian. They forgot about the traditions and the Torah learning. And so as a result, they weren't really connected to the Torah because they didn't really have the institutions that were able to teach it in an effective way. And so, unfortunately, we were very proud to be Jewish. My family supported Jewish causes, but they actually didn't know what the Torah said. I was taught growing up that the Torah was just the thing that you kissed when it went by in synagogue during holidays. But I actually didn't know what it contained, the philosophy, the wisdom. After grad school, I came to Israel to delve deep into my Jewish background and knowledge, and I wanted to know what exactly does it mean to be Jewish. And so that started my love affair with learning Torah. And I've been studying the text for 15 years. I love learning it. I love teaching it and giving it over. I love seeing how we can apply the Torah in our day-to-day lives. And the more you study Torah, the more you see God in this world. And there's a very deep connection. Of course, getting to live in Israel, in Jerusalem, you see it very clearly. It's really an honor to be able to be here, the fulfillment that for thousands of years, my ancestors, regardless of how difficult life was as a Jew, and being a Jew, you were always living under the kindness or the cruelty in some aspects of the host countries that you were living in. And my ancestors decided that regardless of how difficult it was to be a Jew, you were ostracized, you were vulnerable, you had to deal with hosts that weren't always sympathetic. And so the fact that I'm the descendant of thousands of years of Judaism and I get to be back in Jerusalem and live freely as a Jew in our city is really an honor.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So, can you give us more information on the text course that you're doing?
You can find the course at thelandgodchose.com. And it's a course that's designed for that anybody of any faith or background can understand. I make it accessible. I bring the sources. Everybody gets a source sheet. And I explain through the various aspects the importance of the land of Israel throughout the biblical text. From Genesis to the prophets to Jerusalem, I explain the history, the covenant, the laws, how we know that the land of Israel is spiritual, what are the hidden indications within the text, how that has paralleled Jewish history. And I talk about how the prophecies that we're witnessing coming to life. We have prophecy amongst prophecy that has literally already occurred and is occurring right in front of our eyes. And in Jerusalem, we have the privilege of witnessing that firsthand. And so I bring in my 15 years of learning Torah and I make it into one online course that you can watch when it's convenient for you. And I really give a broad understanding of the importance of Israel so that people can leave knowing why the land of Israel is so important and why they should support it and how it's connected to the miracles that we're seeing in Israel today.
Okay, Cynthia, any final words you want to leave the listening audience with?
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing, especially to everything that's happening right now. In right now, we're currently fighting a war against Hamas in Gaza. And what's happening around the world, I think actually relates back to the first sin, which is when Adam and Eve, they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And what happened when they ate from that tree, before everything was clear, what was good and what was bad. And unfortunately, after they ate from the tree and they descended into this world from the Garden of Eden, right, from a higher consciousness in place, now morality becomes murky. We think that what we're doing is good, but might actually be bad. And what we think is bad might actually be good. We've gotten into a place of confusion that we don't know what's really right and wrong. And there's that expression which rings true, which is the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And in the mystical text of Kabbalah, we learn that evil, it's described as a type of klipot, like a shell or a cover that obscures the good, like hiding the true essence of something, hiding the good. They think it's bad, but it's really good. And an example of this is really like a peel of an orange. If you were to eat just the peel, you'd be like, oh, this is gross. But the peel, what it's really hiding and protecting is actually the innate, the goodness. And I think that's what's happening in the world right now. People are looking at this Gaza Israel conflict as they're supporting the terrorist. They're supporting Hamas. They think that Israel's to blame, when in reality it's Hamas who initiated this war, who came and attacked Israel, who for the last 20 years have indoctrinated their citizens, their population, to hate and want to harm Jews. And Gaza could have been the Singapore of the Middle East. And instead, if you see the millions upon millions of dollars that they spent building tunnels underneath Gaza just for the sole mission of entering warfare with Israel, instead of building their state, instead of dedicating this money to educate their children, they dedicated their resources, time, and energy to harm Israel and the Jewish people, really because it's part of a larger war. But the fact that the world sympathizes and supports Hamas while blaming Israel is really indicative of this klipot that we're seeing. And so I hope that your listeners will open their eyes, because God is also creating a lot of miracles. We see it in this recent war with Iran, the miracles upon miracles upon miracles that have happened. And so I think that the people who are spiritually connected, they see what's really going on. But the people who aren't so connected and are kind of casually going through the world, they're being confused by the klipot. So I just wanted to raise the awareness of that, so that people can go beyond the noise, beyond the forces out there, and really open their eyes and see what's really going on. And we see God has been protecting Israel. And this is what he said throughout the entire Tanakh. So it shouldn't come as a surprise to people. All you have to do is read the text, and I'll show you.
Okay, Cynthia, Hannah, thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks, Ben. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, this has been Ben Bresky for Jewish History Moment. Thank you for listening, and shalom.